How hard could it possibly be to send 100 people out to Mars? With Elon Musk's Starship, commercial space travel may soon be possible. This Starship has many variations, including lunar for moon missions, tanker for carrying fuel to fill up other starships, cargo to carry things like large satellites or space telescopes, and deep space for missions to and beyond Pluto. But we ought to focus on the one that will carry up to 100 people to Mars, and that shuttle is the crew version of the Starship. The main question we will answer is, can Elon Musk's space travel company, SpaceX, get this Starship to Mars by the year 2022? To answer that, let's go over what Starship is comprised of and Musk's accomplishments with his Starship so far. Let's begin with the basic components. The bottom of the craft is a rocket called the Super Heavy, and the top part is the spacecraft called Starship, which will be holding the passengers and the cargo. Together, they are, well, the Starship. Oddly, the name refers to both the top half of the craft and the whole craft itself. What makes Starship even more remarkable, you may ask? Well, Starship is being built to be fully reusable. That means both the spacecraft portion and the rocket below it are both to be used again and again. The Super Heavy rocket will be what gets Starship off the ground. Ideally, it would come back down to Earth safely on a launch site. This will allow SpaceX to use the rocket later. The Starship will be out in orbit and will perform missions, one of them specifically for the Mars mission. It can be used for more than one flight. Quick fact, there is also a version of the Starship that is being made to transfer people to different locations on Earth. This is called point-to-point transfer, and it will make traveling the world much quicker. Going from London to New York, for example, would only take about half an hour. For comparison, that same journey would take 7 hours and 55 minutes on a commercial airliner. But even a trip from London to Hong Kong, which would normally be just under 12 hours, would be no sweat for Starship. The craft will take you there in 34 minutes. That gives you more time for you and the family to enjoy a vacation. Just make sure to pack a lot of Dramamine in case you're prone to motion sickness. Focusing back on the crew version, what about when we are flying into Mars' atmosphere? What could possibly protect us from the heat? The answer to that is heat shields. You probably think that sounds like something that would come out of a sci-fi tale, right? Well, the Starship will have such a shield and will protect passengers and cargo when entering the atmosphere hot and fast. In fact, the shield was designed to be used multiple times too. The Raptor engines will also be reusable. What are Raptor engines? According to the official SpaceX website, they are the first full-flow staged combustion rocket engine ever flown as of July 2019, and they are what helps get Starship right off the ground with its thrust of 2 meganewtons. And we're not talking about fig newtons. We can't forget about the stainless steel the craft is made of. Starship was originally going to be made out of carbon fiber, but the material was switched to steel. And this is because it's cheaper, easier to work with, and has the ability to withstand heat. Starship will need this as it goes against a temperature of around 3,200 degrees Celsius. That's around 5,792 degrees Fahrenheit. Or exactly. With Starship's reusability, it is estimated that the craft can fly up to 3 times a day with a total of more than 1,000 flights a year. And that's just for one craft. Think of the fleet that's being made. The inside of the Starship spacecraft is just as incredible. It's filled with rooms, like first-class cabins, which would cost a passenger only $1 million to book, an exercise room, a viewing gallery/crew deck, a bathroom with showers, a passenger area, storage room, and a mess hall. Tickets to board the Starship will be $200,000. That may look pricey, but it's generous when you think about how the Starship itself costs $8 billion, and each flight costs $2 million. Having tickets cost in the mere hundreds of thousands may not be something to sneeze at, but that's up to your personal opinion. Think of it as a step up from buying an annual pass to Disney World. Quick fact, As a passenger aboard the Starship, to eat in the mess hall, you get to use magnetic dishware that will stick to the table so it doesn't float away. So don't worry about poking your eye out with a zero-gravity fork. Oh, did you know that the Starship diet will include artificial eggs, algae, and bugs? This is to ensure that the passengers get acclimated to the food as colonizers on Mars, where there will be farms for insects and cellular agriculture. Whoever invented the food pyramid will have to update it to include insect intake. But enough of the fancy stuff that's inside. Let's take a look at some accomplishments Musk made with the Starship so far. In the year 2019, Starship had its prototype flight. That fall, mass production of Starships began. More of these ships are being made. In April of 2020, NASA selected Starship to help establish a sustainable presence on the Moon. And in May of 2020, NASA and SpaceX launched astronauts to the International Space Station on one of their commercial rockets. So, with all of these accomplishments, will the Starship get to Mars by 2022? Believe it or not, no. See, according to Krishendu Banerjee, writer for the International Business Times, Starship is still under development with 4 successful tests under its belt. And although, quote, Musk said that the Starship will be able to complete high-volume flights in 2022, end quote, a Mars mission with up to 100 people is not on Musk's top priority list at the moment. Musk's plans for Starship include a Moon mission by 2022 and the much-hoped-for Mars mission by 2024. Both of those years are good windows for Starship to make a flight to Mars, since those are the times when Mars is directly on the opposite side of Earth from the Sun. And that's also the time when the millions of miles it takes to get there are reduced to 34.65 million from the much longer 40.38 million. The Mars mission, though, will not be what people were hoping for, since this mission will be unmanned. It means that people won't be boarding the spacecraft. Though even Elon Musk is simply guesstimating the time when Starship will be making a flight out of orbit. Musk wants to send one of his Starships into orbit this year. However, according to Banerjee's article, Musk said, quote, "These are just guesses. I'm about 80 to 90% confident that we will reach orbit with Starship in 2021, end quote. Plus, Musk still has kinks to work out, such as the need for a rocket that can carry a payload of at least 5 million tons into orbit. Now, some of you may be disappointed, but let's be happy with the progress that's already been made. As mentioned before, 4 test flights were deemed successful. That's quite a step, and already there is an email address for you that's posted on the official SpaceX website to book a trip to Earth's orbit or the Moon's orbit. Simply email sales@spacex.com to book. One man certainly did. Yusaku Maezawa, a man well-renowned for fashion and art, is scheduled for a flight to the Moon in 2023, and it'll last a week. It's quite a strange vacation spot. The postcard market is sure to expand to galactic levels. And rest assured that Musk is handling his goals with utmost urgency. This comes from his thinking that Earth will need a second planet for humanity to live on if Earth were to fall into an apocalypse. So don't fret too much over not getting over there as soon as we had hoped. Humanity will have its time to be both Earthlings and Martians when the time comes. Hopefully, time is on our side and Musk manages to use his rockets to get us to where we may or may not need to be one day due to Earth's possible future demise. So be sure to visit SpaceX.com to find out more details on the spacecraft made under SpaceX, including Dragon, Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy, and Starship. And as for how possible it is for us to live on Mars when we get there, well, you'll have to check out our previous video on Elon Musk's vision of building a Mars city. Go see for yourself.